Hello everyone, my name is John Kelsey, and today I'm going to be talking about the IELTS exam. More specifically, I'll be covering the listening portion of the test today, specifically section 1. As you know, the IELTS test has 4 sections: the listening, the reading, the writing, and the speaking sections. And as I mentioned, we will be covering the listening section 1. The listening section is 40 questions. The top score on the listening is a band score of 9.0, and you are measured on your answers, correct answers. So obviously the top score is a 9.0, which means you can miss one answer at most on the listening test. First off, the IELTS test, the IELTS listening test is a 30-minute test with 4 sections, 40 questions, and there's 10 questions per section. Each of the recordings are divided into 2 sections. So section 1 will have 2 parts, section 2 will have 2 parts, section 3 will have 2 parts, and section 4 will usually be conducted in one session. In other words, you'll have to remember the 10 questions and be able to prepare for that part of the test. At the end of so the test will take about 30 minutes, and you'll have about 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet at the end of the test. In this test, it's very important that you don't write on the answer sheet. You just write your answers on the test booklet, because you will have enough time to transfer your answers at the end of the test. And you don't want to transfer your answers as you're going through the test, because you may make mistakes, and if you don't erase your mistakes clearly, they might not be able to read your test properly when they grade it. So in this, you want to be very careful with that. In each section, there's different types of tests. In section 1, it's a dialogue, usually a conversation between 2 people. In section 2, it's a monologue. In section 3, it's sometimes a dialogue, but sometimes you can have 2 to 3 speakers, sometimes 4 speakers. And in section 4, it's a monologue. And in each section of the test, there's different situations. Usually section 1 and section 2 are work or social situations. In other words, they're sometimes called survival situations. These are everyday things that you might do in your everyday life, and I'll go through those in detail in just a second. In section 3 and section 4, these are usually academic situations. So things that you might be familiar with in high school or university. So these are more academic situations. And to go by each section, in section 1, this is usually a conversation, like I said before, with 2 speakers. For example, you might have something like booking a hotel, or making a reservation in a restaurant, or maybe booking like a car or a motorbike or a taxi for you folks in Vietnam. Section 2 is usually one speaker speaking about general information. In other words, sometimes they'll do like a radio talk show host, and he will be giving you information about a specific topic. Also in section 2, it's very visual. So sometimes in section 2, you'll also have to read a map or follow a map. And that's very, very important, because the map section of the test is usually very difficult. So you're going to have to pay attention to that. And then when you move on to section 3, it's usually, like I said before, 2 or 3 speakers, sometimes 4 speakers. With this is about educational things, like maybe doing a tutorial, like showing you how to do something online, like a tutorial. And in this section, you have to pay attention to the different speakers' voices. Sometimes you'll have men and women, sometimes you'll have girls and boys. So it's very important that you pay attention to the different speakers. And then section 4, which is usually the most difficult section, because on the IELTS, section 1 is usually pretty easy, and it gets more difficult as you go. Section 4 is also an academic situation, but it's usually something along the lines of a professor or a teacher giving a lecture. It's not important that you know all the words in the lecture. It's important that you can follow the lecture. And like I said before, this section you usually have to prepare all 10 questions. Whereas in the other sections, you have 2 sections per section, 2 parts per section. So that's actually a little bit about the different areas of the speaking test.